Thank you for coming to my second talk of the day. I still don't know why I decided to agree to this, but here we are. So, today I want to talk to you about serverless socializing, or in other words, how I built a very quick serverless game using MongoDB Atlas and Realm. So a few caveats here. I don't work for MongoDB anymore, but the product is still good, so I'm still going to talk about it. And number two, I forgot what number two is because I have lunch brain, so let's just get started. So as most of us have been working, or maybe, I'm assuming, but as most of us who do work from home have realized, a lot of this being in person, being able to talk to each other, to share some meals and some jokes with each other, we haven't had that in a very long time. And especially at the height of the pandemic, when this little project came about, we were really missing this whole aspect, which we luckily get to enjoy today. Before, it used to look more like this, right? All the little screens. And these are my past co-workers, so we would all meet every now and then, and whoever else decided to join in our little games. And when you work on a remote team, like for me, I haven't met a lot of my coworkers. Even to this day, I left the company already, still don't know my boss, still don't know some of my other coworkers. All of our interactions were really like this. And it was very hard to get a sense of team camaraderie, that feeling you get when you have these inside jokes in the office, or you solve problems together by pair programming or mob programming, all the things that you lack when you're in person with a team. We really found it very hard because we're a globally distributed team and we did not interact with each other than in meetings. And so what did we do to try to combat this? Well, the easiest thing that we could all agree on was something like this. So I'd have my split screen where whoever decided to join, we would do something like a bi-weekly game night where somebody would choose a game. Sometimes it's most of the time it's an online browser game, multiplayer game. Something simple, something fun, something where we don't have to talk about work. So we split my screen, right? Everybody is here, whatever game we were playing is here, and then we're like talking trash about other coworkers in Slack. So we're like, maybe some people are cheating on group games, but this is what our interaction looked like. This is what our socialization looked like. It's not ever going to replace what we have in person, but it did the job for how we had to work throughout the pandemic and may continue to do so right now. Or even if you're a fully remote person, this may be the extent of how you socialize. So who here has seen this Tumblr? Does anyone? Yes! It's the best, right? So I found this by chance. I probably found it on Reddit somewhere. I clicked on the source link for a very funny picture. So it's a Tumblr. People post pictures, like classical paintings, but they put a caption to it that's like funny, tech-related, programmer-related. And so I'll show a couple of them to you so you kind of get the gist, right? So this is the photo. And then someone writes, "The Rust Evangelism Strike Force." Right, so I don't hold me to this. Please don't get me in trouble, Canadius JS. I don't hold myself liable to what is written on the internet here. So here's the next photo, painting really. And what did we say here? COO rescinds ban on expense travel to dev conferences. Pretty accurate. We'll do one more. This looks not safe for work. I'm not even gonna go. Just in case. So let's see, this one is another painting. Developers attempting to deploy a new system. Pretty accurate, right? So this is why this was one of my favorite Tumblrs that I have ever found. And immediately I thought to myself, is there a way I could make this into a game? Because sometimes that's how my brain works. And especially because our team, a lot of us had good sense of humor. A lot of us, we wanted to really just see if they could even come up with a caption. But I wanted to turn this into a game. And so, let's go back here. So how do I turn this into a game? And one of the points of this talk is we usually stop at this point. You have a really great idea, you're like, this is going to be amazing, this is going to be hilarious, this is going to be fun. And sometimes you get kind of caught up in the details. You're like, well, how do I do this? Or you start overcomplicating things and you go, well, what framework am I going to use? And am I going to use this tech stack? And what am I going to do? And all these thoughts start floating around in your head. And then sometimes you get caught in thinking about so many of these things that you never go through with it. Or you find something that doesn't work quite well and you just forget about the idea. And that's something I didn't want to happen here. So what do? I do what Bill Gates said one time, which was find the lazy person because they will do it the most efficiently. And so this is more about how I quickly got the essence of the pieces of the game that I wanted to create up and running very, very fast. So what are the parts of this game, right? Obviously, there's going to be some sort of data storage component. I needed to keep track of the games that I was going to be holding. And just for context, so turning this into a game, I wanted the same concept of I find some random painting, I let people submit a caption, and then whoever's the host of that current game session chooses which one is the funniest to them, right? And then they get points. Even points are not even part of this. This is like scope creep already. So I wanted to turn that into a game. So as part of that, we needed data storage of some sort. And of course, why not? Let's just use MongoDB really quickly, specifically MongoDB Atlas, because you can get a cluster up and running, no problem. And I also didn't know what my data looked like initially. And so being able to have that flexibility and have knowing that I don't need that data model, if you came to my first talk, disregard everything I said in my first talk. We use this because we want to get up and running quickly. The other reason I wanted this is because whatever I was going to use for the client part of my application, quickness. I just wanted to get this up and running. I wanted to just play this with my teammates. And so just kept going through. Realm was another thing that I was thinking about because by using MongoDB Atlas, we get access to Realm. And Realm used to be what the mobile developers used to be able to store data locally and be able to have offline first applications and be able to sync that to MongoDB. But we also started adding some things that were more web application focused. So with Realm, I knew that I had access to things like user authentication, to functions, which I really, really wanted to use because I didn't want to stand up an API and all that. I just wanted to say, here's what I needed to be able to create a game, to enable submissions, to find a particular painting. I just wanted to go. Code and go was the name of the game here. And then the last part of this particular game was I needed a place to find all of these wonderful paintings, right? So I could scour the internet, but luckily I found that the Met has a public API in which they list everything that they have ever exhibited, and they give it back to me in a really nice format. Now the document that they give back in the response when you ask for a random object has a lot of information, right? The era, the country it was found in, all of these things that might be interesting to someone who is interested in the history of that. I simply wanted paintings and I wanted just the URL of that particular image so I could display it on my game. So taking all of these swirling thoughts and not giving too much extra thought into it, we turn it into something like this, and we'll explain how this goes. So, obviously, MongoDB Atlas was the quickest way for me to get up and running with storage. I basically needed a place to store my cards, which would be the paintings that we would all be submitting captions for. Possibly needed a players collection to hold who the players are, multiplayer games, so I wanted to keep track of the players who are playing in the session, and then also any of the winning sessions. And because of the way that the API gave me back some of the data, I needed to finagle some of the object IDs, which we'll see very shortly. So I have a place to store my data. Now I need a direct link to the data source and a way to interact with that data. And so that's where MongoDB Realm comes in. So here I was able to use user auth. In Realm, it's very similar to other application like Amplify or AppSync or things like that, where you can set things based on an application level. And in particular, the user auth that I used was just anonymous authentication because I wanted anyone to be able to play. but we also need that to be able to connect to Realm. And then more importantly, I just wanted to be able to use functions. So these are just like Lambda functions, very quick pieces of code that execute that you can easily connect to your client. So what does this look like? So the initial game, I had one function called create game. And in here, I'm generating a random ID, which I was going to use to set as the identifier of my game. And whenever I would create a new game, which I'll show you where these functions tie into the game and which buttons I'm clicking and all that. When I create a game, I'm simply getting my MongoDB Atlas context. In this case, my database name is called Classic Cards. I generate a new ID, and I generate a new game. So I add a new document to my games collection. And in it are some pieces of information I need for every game. I need the new game ID, the owner ID, because this will be important to determine who is submitting and who is allowed to select the winning caption and who is not. Same thing with when we created it, if the submissions are allowed to be sent. So once I've chosen a winner, whenever the host chooses a winner, then no submissions should be able to be sent anymore. And then obviously an array of the submissions, so all of the captions that are submitted to that game, the eventual winning caption, and then I skipped over number 14 here, which is the actual image URL that we're getting from the API. So fairly straightforward. I'm simply creating a new document to hold the basics of the game, the information about the game, and adding it and storing it in MongoDB Atlas. So the next part of that is grabbing the art piece URL. So this is now where I need to make a call externally to that Met API, because I have all this information, but we actually need, the thing that we're going to be captioning. And I don't have that. I didn't have a preset collection of these things. I simply wanted to generate a random ID and pull that particular piece, so painting or whatever it was from the API. And same thing, so I call it getRandomArtCard, which is another function that I'm using. So very similarly, we get the context of our database, we add the context of HTTP, which just allows us to make external calls. In this case, we're grabbing a random Met object. So what this is doing here is from the finagled object IDs that I've grabbed from the Met API, I'm basically collecting a single one. So out of a sample set size of 1, meaning grab a random ID from my set of Met object IDs, I'm going to take that ID, and then I'm going to insert it here into my randomized GET request. So I'll scoot over a little bit. The API request is literally just to the public Met Museum API, and right here is where I'm adding that particular random ID. So if you were in the talk with Liren, he's probably like, oh my God, this is not secure. But again, this is not the frame of reference application. This is a fun application. And so we're not going to run this through SNCC. And then lastly, once we've sent that API call, got my random art piece from the Met API, we're going to take that parsed response. And from that, all I really need is that URL, right? I need the URL of that particular piece that we got so I can display it in my game. The last part of this is actually one of the most interesting parts, because not a lot of people know that this is part of MongoDB. So now we have our art URL, now it is displayed. The last part that we need to do is to get those submissions and then select the winner. So while people are playing and while people are submitting captions to the particular art piece and in the game, we can actually see this being updated in real time. How do we do that? With something called change streams. So they're very similar to sockets in the sense that it's going to listen to any changes that are occurring on the database. And as people submit captions, I'm storing that in MongoDB Atlas. And so when it senses there is a new document in MongoDB Atlas, the change stream says, oh, something is updated in the database, and then we will update the client accordingly. And that's how we get near real-time showing of when you submit the captions, you're going to see it coming up in real time. And similarly, as I'm deciding which image or which painting or art piece to use, as I cycle through them, you should see on your phones or wherever you're playing from that it should update on your side as well. So the very last piece here is selecting the winning caption. And again, very, very simple. There's another function in Realm. So once I've selected the winning caption, what it does is a little bit of a check here. So we check that the owner ID does not match the one that is from the context of the function, because only the person who started the game, aka the host of the game, should be the one that's allowed to choose the winner. And then once we've set that, we basically update that same document, right? So we find the document by the game ID to know that's the game that we're talking about, and we use the set operator to basically set submissions are now closed, and this is the winning caption, and it just updates the screen. And I've tried to make it look like a Parisian museum. Hopefully somebody gets that part of it. I thought it was hilarious. And that's really it. How long did this take me? We're about 2:15, 10 minutes. That whole thing that I thought was so complicated that I said I could, this is going to take forever. I need to use WebSockets. I need to use this. I need to use that. This really, really fun game ended up, it took maybe about a weekend to build it. And sometimes those are the very best projects that you can build, because you learn about the very MVP that you need to just get something running. And sometimes that's all you need to kind of help inspire you to get to the more advanced level, or say build on top of the application. Or once you actually get something working, that's what we all want, right? We want something working. We want it to be great so that we can continue building on top of it. Because when we get stuck on something, you're like, oh, forget it. It goes to the grave of side projects that never ever see the light of day or even have anything to do with it. Nothing is working on it. And so hopefully this shows you that something like this that is somewhat complex can be done very simply. And so now everything, and the moment you've been waiting for, let's play the game. So go ahead and scan this, or you can go directly to the link. It's hosted on GitHub pages. So Adrianne Tacke, my name, .github.io/house-of-memes. And I do not guarantee it looks the greatest on all mobile devices. So what you should see is something like this, right? So let me just, something like this. So if you see something like this, raise your hand, let me know it's working. Oh, thank you. Cool, cool. It should look something like this, right? You got the Parisian flair font, right? The wallpaper in the art museum. I'm hilarious. I know I'm hilarious. And so that's exactly what I did, right? I say, anytime you see a painting and you think that's exactly what our retrospectives look like, or when you're in the middle of a meeting and you're like, oh my God, this would be a great classical programmer painting submission. So this is where we're going to actually do it. So I'm going to start a new game. And right now it's super simple, right? I have to select an art piece. So while we do that, in your end, go ahead and enter this ID when it says join the game. So it's lowercase u, 0, lowercase h, k, o, r. And once you've joined it, you should see something, if the internet will let me. Don't update now. I like to live on the edge here. Let's see. Let's disable, actually. This changed it for me, unless somebody is doing it. Okay. There we go. Let's just double check. So on your phones, do you see the same image? Raise your hand. No? Did we join the game? Do you see the same image? It might take a while. Oh no, is there no internet? Do you have internet? You were leading me on. How did you even get to the to the game if you didn't have internet? Who? Well, this might ruin the whole demo, but who sees it? Does anyone see anything? Let me try getting another one and updating it. Let's see. Does anyone see this? Does it come up? Does it say selecting an image? Maybe not seeing it, but it says host is currently selecting an image. Okay, see, I'm forgetting my own game. Okay. All right, so this is the host's, what the host sees. So I created a new game, you're in there, you're waiting for me to select what we're going to caption, right? Somebody is doing something, or maybe I have a touchy keypad. This is my, here we go. This looks like a great thing to caption. So I'm gonna make the current art piece active, which you should see it now. Okay, so I'm going to enable submissions, and now you should have a little thing that shows. Hold on, hold on. We're going to get this to work. Enable, enable. Do you see it? Can you enter a caption? I don't know why it auto refreshes. So as you submit, we should start seeing it. Or not, because apparently this wants to refresh on its own. Oh, here we go. Another retro, no. And please be kind, don't get me kicked out. There's no like moderation on this, so if you put a bad word in here, you're never seeing me again. All right, so remember, this is the photo. Who has the funniest caption? Let's see it. There we go. Works on my machine, waiting for you. Where did I put the keys? Like your public-private keys? Hopefully not that. Can you share the source code, please? Your face when product asked for a tiny change on the story. Our Scrum Master when he didn't finish any stories. Product finish when the devs followed the client specification. Friday deploy mood. Working on Mondays, junior dev waiting for help. Developers without Wi-Fi right now. That's a good one. That's a good one. Let's keep going. Roll back in progress. Maybe I should become a farmer. Yes. We all have that dream, right? Or like, if we're not in tech, what are we going to do? I would be a baker. That's what I would do. Keep looking. These are great. So roll back in progress. Junior developer thinking about deploying on Fridays. My face when someone says deploy it on Friday. It will be fine. Me on Monday's meeting. Following the meetup, circa 4:59 BC. I smell tortilla de papas. Okay? I prefer to die instead of review this PR. Reading the comments in your pull requests. Oh, looking at simulations. Joints can cause performance issues. Hello world. Designer tells you it's off by 2 pixels. Waiting for deploy when the other one fails to deploy. This. Multiverse. All right, now we're getting into like the weird stuff, right? Bugs on the demo, everything is fine. I did that. I like that one. I hope the build succeeds. Please, please, please. Yeah, that's like me. Please work demo, please. So watching a merge request from another project. My face when I see a new bug. Jira. Yes, Jira. Jira. Let me tell you about my new web framework. Wow, this is difficult. These are all hilarious. So let's take a look at our lovely... So before I choose the winner, so what we saw here, aside from the weird refreshing issues that maybe I do need to run it through SNCC, what we did here was I connected my app. I'm not going into the code. I mean, I can go into the code. It's a very simple, it was a create React app template. And to combine Realm to that part, you need to add the Realm app ID to the client. From there, you get access to the user authentication, as well as access to those functions. So you're able to call them directly, the functions that I showed earlier. And so when I was selecting get a random art piece, it was calling that function that I showed you, get random art piece, where it would go out, make that request to the Met API and get one. When I'm setting the active piece, it was setting this particular image URL to the game, this particular game's document. And as submissions are going in, it's those change streams that are at work so that we see them actually coming up in real time. So all of these little pieces together, put together in this way, turns out to be a really, really fun time. And so let's select a winner. Let's see what, there was one that was, I like this one. Who thinks this is developers without Wi-Fi right now? Because that is very apt. Let me double check first. Face with utility story, share source code please, works on my machine. Yeah, I think that one is, this is going to be the one. So I'm going to select this one as the winner. And when I select the winner, you should see the winning piece looking like an art installation, right? Do you see the little card on there? No? Yes? So it doesn't show on my end because I'm the host. But on yours, it should show, and we can actually show it to everyone by doing this. Let's go back here. Get the ID, pretend to be someone, and join. Ta-da. Right? So by an anonymous from San Cristobal de la Laguna, Spain, Canarias JS 2022. I think that is the apt caption. And I think I've captured the essence of that Tumblr pretty well. Do you agree? Did you enjoy this at all? And so that's pretty much it. Muchas gracias, Tenerife y Canarias JS. This was really, really fun. I hope this was good for after lunch. I think so. The point of this story and this talk is that sometimes these little ideas that come to your head, they can become the most fun, entertaining little pieces. And especially with the whole premise of me trying to connect with my teammates I've never met before. Something as little as this that was on brand. I was actually able to use the product I was supposed to be selling to you all, but also very, very quick to stand up and to allow everyone to be able to join. I think that's part of the fun of using new technologies and using it in a way that keeps you engaged, that makes you want to build a full app that actually works. And so I hope this at least in part inspires you to take some of those ideas that you have in the back of your head, just play around with it, go through, and who knows, maybe you'll have another fun game to give at a talk and you'll be on this stage. So thank you very, very much.